Happy Wednesday, Mighty Mouse in the house, doing some density fill here, some pipe fill. Got about 200 yards that we're going to pour around these pipes. They use this low strength concrete in place of dirt, as such that it can support the pipes. But being that it's only a 5 MPa strength, if they ever have to service these pipes, it's diggable fill, so they could actually dig it out with a machine. So that is what we are doing here. And let me tell you, it's a little bit boring, especially when you don't have concrete. But what we're going to do here today, what we're going to talk about, and I got all the time in the world today to do this, it's a video I've been wanting to do for a while. We're going to talk about how we deal with a hopper wash. When you come back to the pump and your hopper is absolutely flooded out. What I'm going to do at the tail end of the next load, I'm going to pump the hopper down low, intentionally just dump 10 gallons of water in there, and we're going to review how we deal with it as such that we don't end up segregating in the boom and plugging up the boom. It is an easily avoidable scenario with just a couple pretty straightforward things. So as soon as we get some concrete here, we'll pump that load off. We'll talk about it a little bit. While we're here, look at this dunnage. Look at this, steel plates for the 24 meter. Unbelievable. With a little dike action for good measure. Ain't that cute? You know what else would fit in here? Well, a 47 would fit in here. But what would really fit in here? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you didn't say it already, I will reveal it now. 28Z Putzmeister, the new 28Z Putzmeister would fit in here real nice. My little pipe dream will probably never happen because pumps cost a lot of money now, post virus economics, but I sure would like one. I'll just keep talking about it in every single video, and then maybe it'll magically happen. I don't know. Anyhow, enough about that. Let's get some concrete back to the pump here, and we'll get to the we'll dig into the relevant topic of the day. Yeah. How about that? We'll do that. Okay, so as you can see, the hopper is flooded out. So I've come back to the hopper. I just lifted the grate up to show you. The first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna neutralize my agitator here. Now, if I was running really stiff concrete, I would actually throw the agitator in reverse. I'll put it on here just for demonstrative purposes, as such to help pull that concrete from the material cylinders as it sucks back. But if you don't have to do it, better to have the agitator off. So you got two options here. What you can do is agitator off, suck this back, let all that water spill over onto the ground if you're on a site that can accommodate that. Obviously that's not ideal because you're gonna have a mess to clean up with, or to contend with, I should say. So what I'm gonna do for today's scenario, okay, so what I'm gonna do before I suck this mud back into the hopper here, I'm gonna put my volume down to 0. There it is. I'm gonna open up my air cuff, and I'm gonna let those two boom sections drain out. Let them drain completely empty. And then when I go throw this into reverse, I don't have a vacuum lock. I've got those two sections just coming right back. If you're in a Z-fold or you're stuck pumping indoors or whatever it may be, it'll still pull the concrete back enough. But if you can do an A-frame like this, drain half, suck the other half back, it's better. You won't get that vacuum lock, you won't get it popping at the hopper, and you'll get a lot more concrete into the hopper and a better flow of said concrete. So this is empty now. I'm gonna go back to the hopper. Auger in reverse. Turn my volume up here. I'm gonna put about 30% volume on the remote. I apologize for how dirty this remote is. I'm gonna throw this in reverse, like so. And let it pull that mud back. I'm gonna let it stop just before it spills over. It might vacuum lock first because my sections aren't as vertical as I would like here, but you get the idea. There we go, just like that. So like I said, if I was going to just dump the water right out of the hopper, I'd keep going and let it spill right back over. But what I've done in this case is I've taken some drier mud from inside the material cylinders of the pump and the pipes. I've pulled it back. Now I'm mixing it in with this water. as such, I don't have as drastic of a change in slump, which is what's going to cause the segregation in the pipes. So doing this, I've got a less drastic transition, shall we say. So we'll throw our auger back and forward now that we've sucked all the concrete back, and we're good to go. So we'll get into the next step here when we actually start the pump up again, which is arguably going to be the most critical step. So yeah, if you come back and you've been flooded out, and we know that it happens, the best, safest way is just puke the water all the way out, especially if you've got a dry or bony mix or you're dealing with large rock. This mix here today is super forgiving, which is why I'm kind of choosing to do this in a controlled environment. It's the perfect mix for it, as such I don't shoot myself in the foot and actually plug the pump up. So we'll get this next truck on and we'll talk about what we do once we get rolling here with this sloppy hopper. Beautiful. Top that up and we'll get rolling here. This is the most important part. Are you ready for the most important part? Here is the most critical part. I cannot emphasize this enough. When we restart pumping here, get this dialed in. Very slow, like 25% volume. If you try and do this fast, that is what's going to cause the segregation plug, putting all that pressure going from the dry concrete in the pipes to the wet concrete from the pump. You can push wet concrete with dry concrete, but you can't push dry concrete with wet. That's just the way it works. That wet stuff butts up against the dry stuff, and where it butts up creates a pressure point, and it tends to segregate the aggregate, and that's what causes your plugs. So we're going nice and slow here. Remember, half that boom's empty, so this is going to take a while. Slow is the key, and whenever possible, if you can have an A-frame, so you're just pushing the concrete up and letting it fall back down rather than being flat out and trying to push that water the whole way along. Just get it up over the hump, fall back down. Think of it very similar to priming is what I would say. That's the closest example I could think of. And what you'll hear quite often, especially on a big boom, as the wet stuff comes through, you'll hear it slapping through the pipes even though you're pumping slow. With this mix here on Mighty Mouse, we're not going to get that today. So I'm just going to watch. I'm going to watch till I see that piss wet concrete start coming out the end of the hose. I mean, all this stuff is piss wet today, but I mean really piss wet. And then once it comes through, we're going to speed this up gradually. There we go. There's the wet stuff. See it flowing out of there like water. So I'm going to speed this up. We'll pick it up a bit until we're confidently into the new mud. We'll take a little bit more here. We'll speed it up a little more. And we're good. We're into the new stuff. We transitioned all that water through. No problemo. I'm going to pump this load off and then we'll touch on some more points here once he's empty and I got a little bit more time. Okay, so just to recap, let's play out the worst case scenario. Your hoppers run right down low. You've absolutely been flooded out. The driver washed out near your hopper. It's an absolute mess. Best course of action: drain out half your boom if you can. If you can get an A-frame, drain half the boom out. Get the other two sections as vertical as possible. Shut your agitator off. Put the pump slowly stroking in reverse. Pull that concrete all the way back up. The agitator's off, so it's not mixing the concrete with all the water. And we're just going to displace that water, let it spill out over the back of the hopper until you've got all the water out. And then when you get your next load on, you just proceed as per usual. That's the best case scenario. As we know, we can't always dump a whole bunch of slurry water all over the ground in the back of the pump. Second best option: throw the agitator in reverse, slowly stroke the pump in reverse, bringing that concrete up, concrete and water as high as you possibly can, pulling that dry concrete from the boom and the cylinders into the hopper to mix in with all that water that's been left in there. As such, to reduce the transition from drier concrete in the boom to the piss wet concrete in the hopper. So we mix that up. Now we got a nice smoother transition. Something to keep in mind when you're sucking that concrete back and it's coming up in the hopper. With a hopper grade safety switch, that level might lift your grade up ever so slightly and trip the safety switch. So if you're wondering why your pump won't stroke in forward or reverse, check that. The Putzmeisters, they have a pin, had a pin, you could slide in through there to keep the grade pin down. If you've got such a device, good idea to throw it in there for when you're doing this procedure. All right, so I think that's the gist of it for today. It's a lot to cover there. If I forgot anything, or I'm sure people in the comments section will have their own little tips and tricks and ways that they deal with this situation. But I think that covers most of the techniques that I would use to avoid segregating the concrete in the boom when you've been hopper washed. So, like I said, please chime in if you have any other suggestions. I would love to hear them. I think this could be a really good discussion point. I'd really like to hear from guys in the areas that run nasty mixes. Florida, Texas, big 1 inch, 1.5 inch rock, stuff like that. I'd love to hear from you. All right, so that'll be it for today's video. If I could give one takeaway for today's video, that takeaway would be you can push wet concrete with dry concrete, but you can't push dry concrete with wet concrete. And if you try and do it at a rapid pace, your odds are going to be exponentially worse of pushing dry concrete with wet concrete. So if that all makes sense anyhow. So yeah, once again, thanks for watching. Thank you for joining us on today's concrete pumping adventure. What do they say? Stay safe, keep it shiny side up. Maybe at the outro here we'll leave you with the some footage of the sweet sounds and sweet visuals of the Putzmeister 16H pump cell doing what it does. We'll see if we can get some pipe slap in here. Till next time, over and out.